Hello, and welcome back to another video. Today we're back, but we're back with something a little bit different. So the plan for today, as you could see by the title and the thumbnail of this video, is that we're going to be doing a deep dive into Signora's lore. Now, this is something I've wanted to do ever since I finished the story in Inazuma, and I've just been curious about Signora and her character in general. So obviously this is probably going to contain massive spoilers, so if you haven't finished the Inazuma story and you don't want to be spoiled, here is your warning. I would highly advise you don't watch this video. But with that out of the way, let's jump into reading some lore. And here we are over on the Genshin Impact fandom wiki. So what we're going to do is we're going to read through Signora's, and then anything that is related to her that we can have a look at, we'll go to that page and we'll read through there. So any key points, like any characters that she gets involved with that we might not know about, or just her set. I know she has the Crimson Witch of Flames set. We will be reading those separately just to see if there's any hidden parts of the lore that's linked that we might miss from her page specifically. If I do miss anything because it's not in the wiki or I've overlooked it or misunderstood, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to see what you guys know about Signora that maybe I miss or just don't understand. But without further ado, let's read through this. Okay, yeah, so it says straight away, how about we explore the area ahead of us later? This page contains unmarked story spoilers. So again, spoiler warning. Rosalyne-Kruzchka Lofalter, also known as La Signora and her alias the Fair Lady, was number 8 of the 11 Fatui Harbingers, and a supporting antagonist in the early chapters of the Archon quests. She's the first Harbinger to appear in the game when she ambushes and overpowers Venti to steal his Gnosis. So already we are given a bad impression on this character. Her attack leaves a lasting impression on the Traveler, who greatly distrusts the Fatui and their intentions after witnessing said event. I remember right at the beginning when I saw her for the first time, I was like, wow, she looks visually impressive, but then immediately you can sense the hostility and the arrogance, and the way that she treats Venti just makes you really dislike her. 500 years ago, before she became a Fatui Harbinger, okay, so this is where I'm interested, before she was in the Fatui. Rosalyne was an ordinary young woman from Mondstadt who studied at the Sumeru Academia. As we know, the next nation coming into the story is going to be Sumeru, so I'm very excited to see what Sumeru is like as well. When her lover, Rostam, okay, so we have a love interest, was killed during the Cataclysm. Oh. Okay, so we will read Rostam's wiki in just a moment as well then. Rosalyne was consumed by despair and hatred and used the art of liquid fire to transform her body into that of a living flame. Wow! Thereafter becoming known as the Crimson Witch of Flame. No way! Wait, so does that mean she doesn't have a vision? Use the art of liquid fire. Now, I could be wrong, but do let me know. It does say on the side that her element is Pyro Cryo, and obviously where it says Pyro, it just says Crimson Witch. It doesn't say vision, whereas Cryo does say delusion. Ultimately, she lost to the Traveler in their duel before the Raiden Shogun's throne, and was subsequently executed by the Shogun's Muso no Hitotachi. If I've mispronounced anything, I'm very sorry. Okay, so let's look at Rostam's then. So her lover Rostam was a knight in the Knight of Favonius around 500 years ago, famed as the Wolf Pup, and the close friend and rival of the Grand Master at the time, Arundhalein. That's so interesting that Signora was actually originally from Mondstadt by the sounds of it, which is why she got involved with the Knights of Favonius even, so it's very interesting to see that. Rostam was friends and rivals with Arundhalein, I really hope I'm saying that right, forging a bond strong enough that after he was slain in battle, Arundhalein never entered combat again out of grief. So the Grand Master never entered combat again. Wow. He was in mutual love with the Crimson Witch of Flame. There we go. Rostam wielded a sword in battle, and his combat style is still practiced by the Knights of Favonius to this day. He also mentored the White Knight, whose pursuit of uncompromising justice eventually turned him into the Bloodstained Knight. Okay, so there's a whole rabbit hole here. So I am just going to read things related to Signora here, but if you do want me to go into a deeper dive into like the Bloodstained Knight, for example, do let me know if it's worth actually going into, because I would love to just go through all of this. So in early life, Rostam and Arundhalein spent most of their childhood together, first as playmates and then fellow knights and close friends. He also fell in love with a maiden named Rosalyne, there we go, back in Mondstadt, and was the mentor of the White Knight. Despite being a Knight of Favonius, Rostam did not shy away from doing dirty work in the background. It is said that he even inherited Kruzlide's secret society, which was formed 1,000 years ago to help Vanessa overthrow the aristocracy? Interesting. Okay, so his death. After the fall of Khaenri'ah's Eclipse dynasty and the cataclysm that followed, Rostam embarked on an expedition with the Knights of Favonius to exterminate monsters that spewed forth. He died in battle, however bringing an end to his career as the Knight of Favonius after 23 years of service. Oh my god. Following his death, Arundel never took up the sword again. Meanwhile, Rosalind returned to her hometown in Mondstadt only to find it destroyed by monsters and Rostam dead. Oh my god, that's awful. Out of a desire for revenge, she used liquid fire to transfigure herself and become known as the Crimson Witch of Embers. Rosalind would later eventually join the Fatui and become La Signora. Right, so we're back on Signora's page now. I had no idea about Rostam as a character at all, because he's not mentioned in the game, I don't believe, and if he is, it's probably hidden somewhere. Right, so we're back on Signora's page now. I had no idea about the character Rostam or anything to do with that part of Signora's past. That is so heartbreaking because not only did she lose her lover, she lost her home, she lost everything. It obviously doesn't excuse her behavior towards Venti and what she's doing to us, but let's read on and see if there's anything else that can help us link what she's doing and why she's doing it. As a Fatui Harbinger, Signora possesses great power both in combat and in diplomatic relation. Signora wields a cryo delusion and can also use fire-based powers. We learned that in her boss fight towards the end of the Inazuma story. Signora is arrogant and ruthless. Well, we did figure that one out. She calls Barbados a rodent ruler, and when he suggests that she was only powerful because of the Tsaritsa, Signora takes great offense to the statement and responds by brutally taking his gnosis and kicking him afterwards. This is where I immediately disliked her, and I think that's the same for a lot of people. Even though she does look incredibly cool as a character, and she is very mysterious, you don't touch my boy Venti. When the Traveler encounters her in Liyue, Signora taunts them with a reminder of that event and mocks them for their continued desire to deliver payback against the Fatui. Signora displays equal brutality against new Fatui recruits and uses lethal force against them, despite their clear differences in power. Oh. She appears to hold immense pride and arrogance regarding her abilities in combat and fighting, so much that when the Traveler challenges her to a duel in front of the Raiden Shogun, she confidently accepts the challenge, thinking that she would be the victor and even condescendingly checking to see if the Traveler was sure they wanted to initiate in a duel before the throne. Signora's hubris was ultimately her undoing, as she lost to the Traveler and was executed by the Raiden Shogun per the rules of the duel. Yeah, this took me by complete surprise. I thought, and I said this in my video, I thought she would have some sneaky way out, because obviously we were going to beat her in terms of the story, because if she were to defeat the Traveler there and then, the Raiden Shogun would have obviously executed us, and that would have been the end. So the fact that I thought she would have realized we were overpowering her and she would just have like some sneaky Fatui way of getting out of it, but no, she straight up gets executed. And there are theories out there to suggest that she's not actually gone and she will somehow come back. But Genshin, and from what you guys have said, have shown to be absolutely brutal when it comes to just getting rid of characters. So for now, we are led to assume that she's completely out of the story and that she's gone for good. In her interactions with Zhongli and the Raiden Shogun, in which she was serving as the Shiznayan diplomat, Signora displays a more professional attitude. However, she is openly displeased with how sanctimonious Zhongli's formal declaration is, and later remarks that he ought to thank Child, speaking in a way that implies that she is on equal standing with the now former Archon. With the Raiden Shogun, Signora maintains her professional attitude up until the Shogun prepares to execute Signora for losing her duel against the Traveler. Signora loses her composure, then she attempts to stop the Shogun using her status as a diplomat. Then with threats, before calling both the Shogun and Traveler filthy rats and making a last-ditch attempt to kill the Shogun. Little is known about Rosalind's personality before the Cataclysm occurred and drastically changed her. All that is known is that she liked singing. Oh, well that's kind of sweet. So her appearance suggests that Signora is a tall woman with pale skin, platinum blonde hair, and light grey eyes. Some of her hair is tied into two rose-shaped buns at the back of her head. She wears a black earring on her left ear and a black mask that covers her right eye. She is seen with what appears to be a catalyst hovering behind her right shoulder. Yeah, so as we've seen, I really like her outfit style. I think it's really nice, and I think it does suit her character's personality very, very well. Okay, so moving on to her history, we have the pre-Fatui history here, which I'm super interested in. Her origins are unknown, but she lived in Mondstadt roughly 500 years ago. As a maiden, she loved to sing and even eventually fell in love with Rostam. At some point before the calamity, presumably right before she left, Rostam gave her a special hydro timepiece. Okay. We actually have a note here about it, so since the Chinese version does not differentiate water in a general sense as the element hydro, both represented by the symbol, it is not clear whether it was a water-powered timepiece or a hydro-magic one. It was used to keep track of the amount of time she would be spending away to study at the Sumeru Academia. Okay! That's very cool. So it was just used as a clock. She was likely an apprentice studying pyromagic there, though what means she used to harness pyro is unknown. When she returned, she learned that Rostam had died in battle against the monsters during the calamity and mourned his loss. After her mourning, she decided to use her life's flame to cleanse the world of crookedness, becoming the Crimson Witch of Flame. That's so interesting. So she wanted to use her life's flame, which is very poetic, that's very sweet, to cleanse the world's crookedness, which is so bizarre because we think the Fatui is crooked. We think that it's evil. We don't know the true intentions of the Fatui yet. So it's very, very interesting to know that her whole goal was to cleanse the world of crookedness, yet what we see is her joining some crooked organization. Becoming the Crimson Witch of Flame, she was rumored to have abandoned her mortal body and instead let liquid fire flow through herself with the art that is now lost to history. Whoa! Burning her own face and scarring her body in the process. Oh my word. Although she only burned monsters and demons, she became feared by people. Okay, yeah, so another note here. People rumored that she had abandoned her human blood and flesh, and what flowed through her body was liquid flowing fire. Whoa. Okay, so here we see her recruitment into the Fatui. I'm very curious about this. Before she could be fully devoured by her own flames, Piero, okay, so another character to note, found her and decided to make her an ally. She was given a cryo delusion to suppress her flames and become known as La Signora. Oh! So the cryo delusion was kind of a last-ditch attempt to save her. Oh, this is getting so heartbreaking. In the process, she willingly cast aside and forgot her past, possibly with the help of her delusion. So as we know, delusions do make you deteriorate and lose sanity and lose everything that you once were, as we have seen with the story. So yeah, it's very possible that she joined the Fatui and is now just completely sided with them, just out of sheer unwillingness because of the delusion. That's so upsetting though, because she was so devoured by the flames and the liquid fire within her that overtook her mortal human blood and flesh, as it said. She had to take this cryo delusion, otherwise she would have just been devoured completely by flames. Okay, so the rest of the wiki basically just goes through her role in the story. So if you've played all the way through up until when she gets defeated at the end of the Inazuma story, you will know what all of this is. I won't read through this now because, again, it just repeats what happens in the story. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to Crimson Witch of Flame's artifact set just to see if there's any hidden lore pieces in there that might tie up as to her personality or just her as a character. Okay, so here we are on the Crimson Witch of Flames page. So here we are with the lore side of things. So first up we have the Witch's Flower of Blaze, a flower touched by the witch who once dreamt of burning away all the demons in the world. The anonymous flames affectionately caress the hands of those who touch it. That is so sad. Oh my god. A common species of flower, it is curiously capable of resisting the Crimson Witch's flames. A crisis centuries ago dashed all hope of the maiden seeing the future promised to her. Those dear to her, her past days, and her bright future, all gone. Oh my god, I'm getting goosebumps from this. This is so upsetting. From the ashes, the Crimson Witch of Flame was born, and she burned away her pain with fire. Yet this flower stayed resilient, soft and moist. Perhaps both painful and beautiful memories were two sides of the same coin. So now we have Witch's ever-burning plume, which is the feather. A bird feather touched by the witch who once dreamt of burning away all the demons in this world. Its eternal flame burns hot. A forever burning bird feather. The fire shall burn for all eternity. Scorched earth follows in her wake, for she chose a path of hellfire. Her fires only touched monsters and demons. People still cowered behind closed windows and tried to drive her away, but none of that mattered to her. New hopes were birthed from the fires of old pains. She needed not comforting nor sympathy. Chirping by her side, the birds gave her all the understanding she needed. Oh my god. So as we know, she isn't actually a witch. People just called her a witch because she was seen as this terrifying person or being that was just consumed by fire and just was destructive. But she never meant harm. She didn't want to hurt anyone. Her intentions were just to take revenge on the monsters that took everything away from her. People and humans were completely safe from her. She wanted to, if anything, protect them and save them from the monsters. But because of how intimidating she was, people just wanted her gone. They didn't even want to see her. You know, they feared her, which is just so sad. Witch's End Time, which is the hourglass. A timepiece worn by a witch who dreamt of burning away all the demons in the world. The years of which, dedicated to the flame, flows within. A small vessel containing a high temperature liquid. It is said to be the molten souls of evil spirits, a special hydro timepiece given to the Crimson Witch before Calamity struck, back when she was still a maiden and had not yet embarked on her journey. One cycle was the right time required to finish her study at the academia. By the time the countdown had ended, she had returned to her hometown. Its previous owner had become a casualty of the crisis. So that's Rostam. Her maiden years were over, the Crimson Witch of Flame was born, and with her the era of destruction. The timepiece bore witness to the days of the monsters and the pain that they caused, until all were burned away. Oh man, so was the timepiece of the set the original hydro timepiece that Rostam gave her, but because of her fire it became what it is now? Oh man, okay, we're moving on to the Witch's Heart Flames. A flame-spitting urn left behind by the Crimson Witch of Flames, who once dreamt of burning away all the demons in the world. The fire in the urn burns eternally, as did its former master. A clear bottle containing liquid fire. The techniques involved in making liquid fire have since been lost. The Crimson Witch of Flame walked upon the earth, burning monsters into cinders. Rumor told of how she sacrificed her mortal body to become the embodiment of liquid fire herself. Still, love and longing once dwelt in her maiden heart, until fires burned away that beautiful and fragile part, thus becoming the witch that historians were loath to remember. This just gets sadder and sadder with every piece. Okay, so the final piece is the witch's scorching hat. A hat once worn by the witch who dreamt of burning away all the demons in the world. The large brim blocked her sight. A traditional witch's pointed hat with a large brim. It grants a witch the reverence and fear which she commands. To the Crimson Witch of Flame, this large hat shielded her from surrounding distractions. It was how she was able to hone her pyro skills when she was still an apprentice. In combat, she needed not pay attention to monsters disintegrating in flames, nor did she need to look at her own burnt face in the water's reflection. And so the Crimson Witch continued to burn, blind to the extent of her devastation. Oh my gosh, that is so sad. So the hat is almost a way of her neglecting what she was doing to herself, and almost a way of her to deny everything that was going on around her, the way that she was being consumed by the flame, and she just didn't want to see it, and she didn't want to admit it to herself. So the hat was almost a way for her to blind herself from it, and obviously without the hat she was blind. She refused to accept what was really happening because she was so angry and wanted this pure revenge, and all that mortality within her was also being burned away, which just inevitably ended up in where she was now and where she is now, which obviously forced her to get the cryo delusion, to suppress it, to save her. Yeah, so as we can see, you have her portrait here, but you can even go as far as to seeing the Crimson Witch. So this is what people feared. You know, this image of the Crimson Witch is exactly why people were so afraid of her, because she was so blinded by her destruction, and because of how deteriorated she became from the flames and the fire, she did become a witch, which she absolutely despises people calling her that, because that's not who she was meant to be. She didn't want to become an evil witch. She just wanted to get revenge and get rid of the monsters that took away everything, that took away her home, her loved ones, everything that she had promised to her in life. A successful life as a maiden with a partner and a home, all stripped from her. So she was so blinded by revenge and the fire and the way that she was deteriorating that she did become so incredibly scary to everyone around her that sadly this is what she became, you know, the Crimson Witch, which is who we face when she strips away her delusion as a final ditch effort to get rid of us in the story. And there we go, and that was Signora's lore explained. Now I did go back and have a look at who that Piero character was, and I am fully aware that that is a member of the Fatui. In fact, that's a very important member of the Fatui. Now, I didn't read it purely because I don't want to be spoiled by it. I'm very excited to be introduced to that character in the story of Genshin itself. So if you do want to know who that character is, you'll have to go and look at that yourself, as I'm going to avoid it in this video. So my final thoughts on Signora as a character after reading her lore is that I still don't think that what she did to Venti was right, but after reading that, I think that the original Rosalyne is no longer there. I think that what we have been introduced to is a shell of a person who is so affected by the disintegration and the delusion that Rosalyne is no longer there. And I think that's so sad, because again, she was just someone that wanted to live her life as much as anyone deserves, and all of that was just stripped away from her. I really hope now that she's gone from the story, she can stay gone and rest in peace, and I do hope she gets that rest that Rosalyne deserved. With that, I think we'll leave it there for today, guys. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. This was something a little bit different. As I said, if you want to see more like this, let me know down below. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, guys. I will see you guys next time. Goodbye, my friends.